Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at the Deloitte Digital booth for our first in a series of our Deloitte Digital Bar Talks. Really excited to be here with two of my favorite people, Deloitte Digital CMO Alicia Hatch and Adobe CMO Ann Lewnes. So we're here today to talk about creativity and the modern CMO. Really excited for this conversation personally. I'm the marketing communications lead for Deloitte Digital. My name is Heather Graubard, and I'm going to kick off the first question and kick it over to Alicia. So, Alicia, you and Ann have both had very interesting career paths and started out with very different interests than marketing. You used to work for the World Health Organization, so tell us a little bit about how you got to be a marketer.
Yes, so I set out to save the world early in my career as a very optimistic undergrad and ended up living in bush villages in West Africa for months and months on end and lived in these communities and began to understand the people. And it turned out to be a masterclass in how perception is formed. And I became fascinated with it. And it actually quite naturally and unexpectedly led to a career in marketing.
And what about you? I know you had a love of music early on. How did you get into marketing?
Yeah, so I grew up in New York City, and I always wanted to be a roadie or a musician, either one. And I ended up being a journalism major and a political science major. And when I got out of college, there were absolutely no jobs for reporters, and I basically would never have been able to afford to live on my own. So I packed up my stuff and I moved to California. And I found a job working at a actually small company at the time called Intel. And I worked in corporate communications there. And that was basically right at the beginning of the PC revolution. And that's how I got into marketing. It was a good move. I just lucked into it, though.
That's really great. Well, I know one of the things that as marketers we talk about all the time is creativity. We're here in probably one of the most creative environments I've been in for a while. So tell me a little bit, Adobe is known for being on the cutting edge of creativity. So tell me, what is the key to constantly pushing the boundaries of creativity and really creating a creative culture within your organization?
Well, I mean, creativity is at the core of the company. It's our DNA, it's our business. And I think you have to be pretty passionate about it in order to work at Adobe. I have a really high bar when it comes to creativity. And I think that really inspires and motivates our team to do what I think is probably best in class work. And we also have an amazing community of creative professionals that we call upon, and we source a ton of our work from our Behance community, which is 10 million creative professionals around the world. And so we have a big studio in-house. We have the luxury of being able to hire really, really talented creative people because they want to come to Adobe and work with all of our tools. And I think just innately, we believe it's really important. It's a great connector. And, again, I think that's who we are, and it's super important to the brand.
That's so exciting. Well, it shows definitely in everything that you've done here at Adobe Summit. The sessions, the general sessions, everything is just beautiful. So it's definitely very inspiring. So Alicia, coming from the consulting side, historically, we might not be known as maybe the most creative folks out there. And I know that with the Deloitte Digital brand, we're looking to change that for sure. What are your steps? How are you changing this consulting model and really disrupting, what has been historically known as not that creative of an industry?
Yeah. So in rethinking ourselves, we actually redesigned around creativity and making it central to our culture because, really creativity is maybe the most critical business skill of the 21st century. So what we're doing is actually expanding the role of creativity in business. We are bringing creativity into business model innovation discussions. We're helping brands redraw lines on industries, rethinking their context, using creative thinking. We expand the role of creativity and then use that business strategy and industry insights into actually changing the creative output of the content itself. So we're communicating very differently. We're making actually creative more strategic than ever.
That's really exciting. It's exciting for me, especially to be a part of a company that is looking at things like that and really how we spread creativity across the entire C-suite, not just confined to the CMO anymore. So speaking of common challenges in business, can you tell us a little bit about what some of the common challenges are for CMOs in this really disruptive industry? We just said creativity isn't confined to just you anymore. So, what are some of those challenges, Ann, that you think our modern CMOs are faced with today?
I mean, this is the craziest time in marketing, and it's pretty much the craziest time in business. So, the list of challenges is long. I would say, there are a lot of changes underway in terms of media, and there's a media explosion. Where do I place my bets? Media that I used to use it's not even here anymore. New media types that I'm not familiar with at all are all the rage. So, we do a lot of modeling to figure out where we should place our bets, and I always encourage fellow CMOs to really do a lot of attribution analysis and get really smart and analytical about media. I think, there's a lot of effort now on return on investment. And again, these are analytical skills, things that, CMOs never really had to grapple with. And so you hire data scientists, we hire, developers. We have a lot of very technical, analytical people in marketing now. And, sourcing those people and getting that kind of talent isn't always easy, especially in Silicon Valley. There are a lot of opportunities, but I talk to companies, that are in more far-flung places, and it's really hard to source talent there. And then I think, the one positive thing I would say is that marketing now really helps drive business, and all of that analytics has enabled us to really substantiate and give evidence about what the impact of our dollars are. And while that's a challenge to be able to do that, I think that's also given us a huge opportunity and a lot more respect and credibility than we ever had before.
I totally agree. The role of the CMO is actually more interesting than ever. It's a huge opportunity to actually matter and have a seat at the board table and not just be a cost center. But with all of that, I think it's not only the analytical challenge of really pinpointing your ROI and actually being able to place those bets in a smart and ongoing way, but communicating that back to the C-suite requires that you speak the language of business. And I think CMOs, we have our own language, right? Yeah. That nobody understands. It's gibberish to the rest of the C-suite. So being able to translate that into the language of business and making it make sense to the CFO, helping others to actually understand that value, I think is a big challenge right now. But as CMOs do that and they become viewed as wearing a business hat in the C-suite, they'll be growth drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of our responsibility, right? I think, for a long time, CMOs had a somewhat luxurious position, other than getting fired every 18 months. We were not called upon to really provide the goods, and because we couldn't. And now that we can, I think, with my peers, I spent a lot of time with my CFO. I spent a lot of time with my head of sales. Now we are all speaking the same language. And, I've had to educate them about what we do. They've had to educate me about what they do as well, because I feel like I need to know as much about how the sales organization measures its success and how the CFO is looking at the business in order for me to really be able to, present the adequate kind of metrics that are being asked of me.
And it's that big picture, right? In this customer experience revolution that we're in, as data gets centralized, and technology actually is increasingly centralized under the CMO, the CMO's position to actually educate and orchestrate the rest of the company around the customer in meaningful ways. So it's not just lip service, right? And again, next level strategic importance for the CMO.
That's great.
We're taking over this thing.
No, it's great. Keep going. So you both talked a lot about the changing role of the CMO, how it's been very different. We now know that the CMO really has an important place as a growth driver within the organization where, maybe that wasn't as clear before. What advice would you give to, young people out there who are looking to maybe think about a career in marketing? How would you, it's not just about, marketing materials and advertising anymore. What advice would you give to them to, be able to start a career in marketing in today's changing environment?
Yeah, and I think this is good actually for anyone who's starting any career, but I would say, number one, great communication skills. And, I'm always encouraging, I have two sons, teenage sons, and I'm always telling them, you may, not think it's important right now. Being able to present your ideas, whether visually or editorially, is probably the most important thing. Being able to stand up and present in front of a crowd and influence people, important skill. I think back to the analytics, it's really important in marketing. I think inherently marketers are, emotional folks and, creative folks inside. but without those analytical skills, you're not going to be able to get by anymore. And so I think communication, analytics, and creativity.
Alicia, what about you?
For me, marketing is an ideal sandbox for innovation as well. It's not often viewed that way, but you have this amazing convergence of technology and data and customer interaction that could spawn entirely new businesses if you sort of think very deeply about the way you are experiencing the work. And I feel like it's a much more not only creative, but incredibly innovative career than it's often given credit for.
Yeah, one more thing, just an anecdote. I was talking to the head of a business school recently, and he was telling me that it used to be that all the smart kids who were getting MBAs wanted to go into finance, and all the smart kids now want to go into marketing. So I took that as a testament to we're on the right track.
I love that. I'm going to use that for sure. So now that we've talked a little bit about, changing role of the CMO and different ways that you need to be successful in marketing today, tell me a little bit about, since we're here at Adobe Summit, we're with all these great creative people, so much energy, so many awesome things going on. Tell me a little bit about what are the most exciting products from you guys that you're really excited about this year, and what are going to be the next upcoming things for digital marketers?
My own products or other people's products?
Yours, for sure.
Okay, so I'm particularly excited about a product called Advertising Cloud Creative, which solves like so many pain points for my team. And essentially, it lets us take creative that our agencies or freelancers might create and be able to make, minimal changes, I would say, within our Adobe Experience Manager, where we're storing all of our assets. This will reduce so much time, the back and forth that all of us who work with creative content constantly have to endure. But I think it's one thing that we can do to really break down those barriers between creatives, media folks, marketers on the client side. And so I'm really excited about that. And we had a great demo of that today.
Amazing. The de-siloization of marketing.
It was really awesome. I saw the demo in the session yesterday, and there were a whole bunch of us just geeking out on it. It was really, really fantastic.
Yeah, if you'll let me get one more in, I'll just talk about Sensei
Absolutely.
for 2 seconds, because Adobe Sensei, it's in every single one of our technologies, but I think we saw some amazing demonstrations today, some great work that we're doing with NVIDIA in particular that we announced today. Jensen Huang, the CEO, and our CEO, Shantanu Narayan, were on stage talking about what we're doing together. But I think artificial intelligence, our machine learning frameworks, and what we're able to do on the creative side, on the marketing side, is pretty exciting.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I just wanted to say it was a privilege for me to be able to be here with Ann and Alicia today. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Again, 2 of my favorite people, very inspiring. So thank you all for joining us today in the booth for our Bar Talks, and stick around, have a drink, and we'll be here with more Bar Talks soon. Thanks
you
again.